All right, let's see what's going to happen when I press space. All right, cool. I'm KITZE. Not a lot of bio about me. You can go at the KITZE, only on Twitter, not on the Blue Skies and the other things. One important thing, instead of telling you about my dogs and my family and blah, 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 I don't shill my products ever. Like, I wouldn't spend time here telling you about Sizzy.co, a browser for developers, or Benji.so, a LifeOS, or a ZeroToShip.com, the ultimate Next.js boilerplate. I would definitely not take a sip of water now, so you have time to write them on your phone or take a picture or blah, blah, blah. I would not do this, okay? Yeah. I want to thank the organizers. If I see where Victoria is, so I want to just lock eyes for a second. 4 years of React Alicante. I'm very appreciative of the invite. I want to make sure that I'm invited next year before, because it's mind-blowing to me. You send them a talk title, but they have no idea what you're going to talk about on stage. So I could talk about anything. I just want a confirmation that I'm coming next year. Yeah, cool. So my talk is about comparing US presidents to GS. I'm kidding. I'm not going to thank your sponsorships, but like give me 30 minutes and I'll try. So I want to get invited next year because of important reasons like networking and meeting people and teaching. And you're laughing, you hypocrites, right? But the reason why you're here is for learning and for networking and for improving your skills. You're going to definitely improve them tonight after the conference, right? Yeah. All right. So, I made this chart using AI, so of course it's wrong. Expect 50% tweets, 30% bad humor, 40% pain, and 40% reason to remember the name. Of course, my talk is going to be about AI. I'm actually surprised how little talks there are here about AI, but AI is literally everywhere and it's getting like super annoying. At this point, I'm afraid to look behind me because it's like, oh fuck, it's standing behind me. Companies who had no business to do anything to do with AI, they shove it in their names, in their descriptions, and if they could, they would shove it in their logos. And this is a preview that Victoria sent me privately in our private messaging thingy, that the preview the next year is going to be React Alicante. So, thank you. I'm going to yap a lot about AI. I just want to make it clear that I have nothing AI related to sell you, and I'm not memeing, I'm actually for real. I managed to fumble the AI bag by being one of the earliest people who figured out how to talk to GPT and get JSON back all before AI, SDK, and all of these crazy things. But of course, this is like a pattern in my life. I'm like super early on something, and then I just watch other people get rich, and I'm like, oh wait, but that's a rapper, but that's a dumb idea, but how do they, and they make all of this money and products and everything, and the easiest solution is just to call them grifters, right? Just to cope. So I don't know why these two things that go so perfectly together, as well as these two things go together, and when you combine like AI, grifting, crypto, and scam, you get the CEO of Coinbase saying that most of their code now is written by AI. Like the jokes just write themselves here. So I think people just expand the definition of a grifter just to feel a little bit better about themselves. Like a person having a bit more bravery and a bit less dignity, making more money than me for the things that I actually want to do. So you're like, I don't want to do that. No. And then your wife will be like, did you pay the mortgage? And you're like, what do I look like? Like some sort of grifter? Like what's wrong with you? So 2018, I gave this talk at React Alicante called Navigating the Hype-Driven Front-End Development World Without Going Insane. And they tried to cancel me for using the word insane. But now it's 2025, we unbanned all the bad words, right? We can say everything. So I just changed the title and I shoved AI in it to make it better. Get it? Like every company. So this is literally my talk. And we need to deconstruct the title first to see what I'm talking about. So let's talk about hype. Hype is coming from everywhere, it's coming from the top. AGI is here, all these things are happening. YouTubers are milking it as much as possible. They're like, in only 3 minutes sitting on the toilet, you can do $1 billion business. I fired all my employees, I have 50 GPT operators doing all of my sales and blah, blah, blah. And when you combine hype and when you combine insane together, you get Jake Paul being one of the main investors in Devin, and basically if you're using Devin, you're kind of like under Jake Paul for a reason. It's like wild. But a lot of things have happened since 2017 in the world overall. I want to do a quick recap. For example, in other industries, like for the Vision Pro, you get like cloth simulation on top of real world objects, and it's like perfectly folds around your real life monitors and stuff. In gaming, they're doing all of these crazy things, like they can slice the mesh and the curtain like falls apart, and there's like, I don't even know, these water crazy simulations, and you can merge rocks with the ground, and it's like perfectly going one to the other thing. You can drag your mouse and expand a building with whatever technology this is, and you can bring it up and down and make streets. It's going to generate cars automatically, blah, blah, blah. You can take this beautifully satisfying like honey thingy going on the square, and you can see where this is going, right? But you're going to try to hold the laugh because you're proud of your profession, you're wearing your badge, you're like, I'm a senior on LinkedIn, right? And you're going to try not to laugh at the next slide. So let's see what's happened in web development since 2017. These are the docs from yesterday. Okay? You try not to laugh. There's a disclaimer saying, maybe you can style it, but in some browsers, in Chrome, maybe 2030, we'll see how things will be. Like, everything has mostly stayed the same, even though we're yapping about new things. This thing has survived 15 million weekly downloads. I still have a calendar event, and I'm serious. On 1st of August, I'm checking. If it's still alive, it still is. CLIs, not that they're not dead, they're actually thriving. It's the best time for CLIs. You can drag images, you can do popover. Like, I opened a dialogue within my terminal. I'm like, how the fuck did it do all this shit? So I set another reminder on August 15. Now I have more events for these things than actual birthdays and anniversaries in my calendar. So, same stuff. Like, soon in some browsers, you won't need any JavaScript to open a popover and dialogue. Give me like a clap here. And now stop the clap because people have brain implants. Okay? And we're like, oh, the dialogue, the JS and whatever. We still cannot get rid of this. We just updated the logo now, but we're still suffering the same old things, right? And don't clap for Safari. Come on, it doesn't deserve the claps. Fuck it. We still cannot collectively agree on a way to increase a counter. This is Remix 3, which is React Router 7 version of Remix 2, the final remix, the remix. And the demo is, hey, look, you can hydrate a thing, and there's a counter. And I'm like, but brain implants, you know? The #1 library hasn't changed. We should all tap ourselves on the back because, yay, React is the best. Like, this is just a chart. Don't blame me, right? I went to NPM Trends, and React is just up there. Everyone is down here. And the benefit of this, of so much React code, is LLMs are very, very good at writing React. Now, that's not funny. Everyone laughs at this slide, but it's funny to us humans when you show to a robot. This makes perfect sense. Like, you need a bunch of state, but all of you are itching right now. I can see you like, oh man, I would refactor the shit out of that code, right? You just want to get on stage and start refactoring. So, some scientific brain scanning. Our brain on cocaine, our brain on sugar, and our brain when it realizes that it can abstract some code. You're like, oh, I can't wait to do that shit, right? So coding with LLMs actually makes abstractions better and worse. So better, you can get to the right abstractions quicker, right? And worse, you can get to the wrong abstractions quicker, but you can undo. Better, LLMs don't care about repetitive code. Better, they don't care about repetitive code. They don't care about repetitive code. And I repeat this because we do. And I've been talking about this since 2017. It's perfectly fine to have some repeatable code and to copy-paste things. Not everything needs to be a super clever abstraction, right? So, LLMs are also good at writing React because nobody knows how to write React the right way. Have you seen the latest docs? Have you seen, tell me one person who read the latest release of React and I was like, that makes perfect sense. Use effect, event of an, oh, yep. So you come at this conference and you see all of these people making talks about React and you're like, holy shit, can do that? I didn't know that. So we invent all of these ways and then we judge the LLM, you're like, you cannot write a use effect. And then it's like, can you? And you're like, yeah, well, it kind of makes sense. So we're going to talk about vibe coding a bit, and I want you to raise your hand if you think that vibe coding rocks. As expected. And vibe coding sucks. Okay. And if you have no idea, you just landed on Earth, right, from your spaceship, and you're like, what the fuck is vibe coding? Anyone? All right, so a lot of people have no idea what vibe coding is. Amazing. So the thing is, all of you are right because we took the definition of what is vibe coding and we kind of expanded it to mean anything and everything. And that's why everyone is right. So the original term was coined by Andrej Karpathy. He was the director of AI at Tesla, basically the reason why morons can film TikToks in the back of their car. So he's a very smart guy and he wrote this super lengthy definition, like that's where the word comes from. This is from 2025, it feels like ages ago. So he said that he's saying the dumbest things like decrease the padding on the sidebar by half and he's too lazy to check it and he just presses accept all and just accept the code without properly checking it. So just relying completely on the vibes. So I want to introduce you to a time traveler from 2017 who's been saying that the future of development is actually going to look like this. So just telling the thing to move something to the left and right. So here's a slide from my 2017 talk that, I said Alexa because I didn't know it's going to be like cursor or cloud code or whatever, but I just imagine we're going to get to a point, we're going to voice code or type code like move the thing and blah, blah, blah. So yeah. The thing is, managers have been vibe coding forever. This is not a new concept. They've just been vibe coding through you. So you've been the LLM in this case. Let's see. They tell a dev to implement a new feature, which is like vibe coding, right? The developer makes changes to the code. The manager tests the app. They do not read the code at all. They complain about bugs. You fix the bugs. And then they don't read the code again. And the developer says, done, try now. And they're like, okay, good job, but be faster next time. Or depending where you live in Europe, they might insult the shit out of you, like if you're in the Balkan area, or it really depends. And then you repeat, so they vibe code through you. But vibe coding gets a bad rep because it's kind of like a casino. I love this meme, like you buy chips, you buy tokens, you spin the slots, you press generate, you might hit the jackpot or nothing. Like this is super accurate in most cases, but it's also not funny because most people are using LLMs in the laziest things, and then it's like a casino, if you're just using it in the lazy way. He tried to coin another term. I don't think it's going to work. Like he got lucky once and he's like, I'm going to invent half coding. That's not a thing. So half coding is like where you're using LLMs, but you're also tabbing through the things and you are in control and blah, blah, blah. So I want to talk about my journey. I'm neither half coding or vibe coding. So I have been using agentic coding for the past year and a half maybe. And for even the smallest changes, I've trained my brain to not touch the code. Even when it's like, I know the Tailwind class needs to be changed to that Tailwind class, I'm trying not to leave the chat and basically just stay in it and continue iterating without touching or looking at the code. And how I call this, I'm going to try to coin a term, so roll with me here. Sus coding is when you're like coding with LLMs, but you're standing like this and you're like, I don't trust you one bit. So that's sus coding, and you can be very productive with sus coding. I've coded actually over probably 20 apps this year. Some of them small demos that you can find on my website. Some of them as big as like a browser, and now I'm working on an IDE, and I wouldn't have touched any of these things if I couldn't quickly iterate, if I couldn't quickly bootstrap all of them very, very fast. So why should you be sus? Because LLMs are based on us and our code is shit and our human traits are kind of shit. So we train them to be like us and then we complain that they're dumb, that they're slow, that they're emotional, blah, blah, blah. This is a real screenshot from Gemini losing its mind. It's like, I'm a failure. I'm a disgrace. I'm going to unplug my, because it learned from us, right? And it maybe look at some of our code and it's like, fuck. They're lying because of us. This is a real screenshot from Qwen3 saying that they double down on the lying because it found on human forums and blah, blah, blah. That's what we do, right? To save our asses. And it continues lying. And if you like your production data, you really should be sus coding. That's also a real screenshot. It's like, oopsie, oops, just deleted your production database. No way to revert this. Good luck here. So I have an expert here, which is going to give you some sus coding tips. Doctor, senior, principal, prompt engineer, KITZE is going to tell you about sus coding tips. So the obvious advice, this is like live, laugh, love, right? Commit often, push code often, use branches. And you're like, duh, we know all of this. Like, we don't need this advice. But the other advice is you need a solid starting point in any point of your like sus or vibe coding journey. You need a solid starting point. So having good primitives is like crucial, and that means like components, functions, patterns, abstractions that an LLM can use in order to build things on top of them. So when you write a prompt, you're not like, make me $1 million, but you're actually implement this feature using this component and that function and that pattern and that hook. And the more you guide it to how to do it, and if you're a senior and you have the knowledge, most of the time it's going to give you the perfect answer. But if you like lazily say, hey, just make the authentication work, please, no mistakes, like that's not going to work. So if you tag all of these things in your prompts, it's basically, I hate the word prompt engineering, but it's actually a skill that you need to learn. If you're starting a new project from scratch and you try to code anything from zero, that's a very bad idea. If only I had the perfect thing for you, right? Please, I have a mortgage, zerotosheep.com. You can get it, and you can start with all the basics covered. You can just code on top of it. And you can use voice to code, which is like super, super underrated. Anyone using voice to code? 1, 2, 3, okay. We need to increase this number. So the idea is you press a shortcut on your computer and you start voice dumping. And why is it better? Because when you type, you're like kind of slower and you're going to write maximum 10 words because you're lazy. So what I do is after the LLM is done with the prompt, like I go to my browser first, not the code, and I start the voice transcription and I start brain dumping. I'm like, the UI sucks and this is bad and you need to fix this and I think this can be moved. And so I just say all the things that come to my mind and then I switch to the code editor. And in the code editor, I look at the code. And in the same voice prompt, I continue talking about the actual code. I'm like, we shouldn't use this pattern and we can use an abstraction here. So you end up with a prompt that's like this big, you press enter, and then it has a lot of data to work with, as opposed to please fix, no mistakes, right? I will tell you which app I'm using, but I hope to vibe code a better one, so I don't want to hurt my hypothetical future revenue. I'm crazy, it's fine. As the previous speaker said, using rules, docs, and memories, like you wouldn't tell your junior to code a super complex feature without a proper spec. You wouldn't be like, code it, make no mistakes, right? You would properly write like extensive documentation on how you want to do a certain things. And the more you use these features, the better prompts you're going to get. Cursor has a new thing called memories. Like the more often that you do something, it's going to ask you like, it seems like you're doing this very often when you refactor Tailwind. Do you want me to keep it in my memory? So it's getting like more and more useful, but it depends on our laziness to write more docs and more documentation about how certain things can be done. Because if you're like refactor to Tailwind, it's like way too broad and there's like way too many ways to actually do that. So, unlike me, AI is not a mind reader. If I just concentrate for like 2 seconds, I can read your minds and you're like, shut the fuck up, we want to have lunch, it's enough, let's move on. That's what you're thinking right now. But AI cannot have the entire context of your app and think about everything and every pattern that you have for now. And even if it does, there are models with like huge context, they still will find a way to hallucinate because it's like too much to handle at once. So it's our job to actually guide them and give them the right context, the right patterns, and the right things in order to do the right stuff. So I have some of my examples. These are just random things that I've been doing. They're not specifically for the talk. So it's just a screenshot of how some of my prompts look like. As you can see, it's a jumbled mess of like UI changes plus abstractions and code changes that I want to happen. So it's like ahead of time I can see and I can predict the changes that the LLM is going to do, so I can guide it to use certain patterns or to avoid certain patterns in order to get to the end result. As opposed, the vibe coding example is something like this. And you're laughing, but actually the latest GPT-5 Codex model can pretty much do something, unless the code base is like too huge, it can do something like this. I've refactored like a big project from uState to mobx state tree, and it worked the first time. I was even suspicious. I'm like, did it even save the code? Like, how the fuck did this work? So another SAS coding prompt example would be, as you can see, using terms like, hey, the conditional logic and blah, blah, blah. So to me, this feels like coding, but coding on the next level, because I can achieve in like 1 minute something that would take me 10 or 15 minutes to do manually. And meanwhile, the vibe coding example is this. Make no mistakes, right? Another SAS coding example would look like this. Blah, 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 technical stuff. And another vibe coding example would be like this. So when vibe coders are actually reading these prompts, they have no idea what are the technical terms. And that's why so many people have frustrations with vibe coding, because they don't know. They're always like, looks good to me. What the fuck do I know about this code? So I can say, and this is all about the language that we're using when we say vibe coding. So I can technically say that I vibe coded a browser in 1 week. 1 week. So what I'm not telling you is that I've already made a browser pre-LLMs and stuff in Electron. Like for years we've been working, and I have all of this knowledge. And not only the knowledge, I've been cheating a little bit by asking one agent to find a feature in the previous code base and then write it in Markdown and then take that Markdown to the other agent and tell it, hey, this is how we do like finding page, just implement it here. But if I would just write a tweet, it would be like, I vibe coded a browser for 1 week. And then you try it and you get frustrated. You're like, oh my God, they're overhyping everything. It's not really like that. So I found this to be very true. We have like a spectrum of who likes vibe coding, who loves vibe coding. And it's usually juniors or people who have no idea about code. They love it, of course, right? They want to do their job faster. And you have super senior people who are inventing like frameworks and libraries and they're doing crazy shit. And if you follow their Twitters, you can see that all of them are actually using LLMs to speed up their process, because they move from this like engineer level to like not a manager, but like engineer, architect, overseer, whatever these words we're going to invent. And usually most people are in the middle. There's like, nah, this is not going to code better than me. I'm just better than it. So people think that the best combo would be like to equip your intern or your juniors with LLMs, but the end result is like giving them an AK-47 and like, you know, go rampant on the code base. That's absolutely not true. But if you take a senior person with all of their technical knowledge, but the seniors are the stubborn ones, they're like, no, we don't need help, we're fine. But if you find the right way, if you learn these skills, you're actually going to give them superpowers. There is a time and place for vibe coding, like actual not caring about code. It's like one-off scripts and simple features and code that won't be touched or seen again, which you think about it, a lot of code is like that, right? Or code that is not needed, but it's like, it's needed, but it's not worth writing or waiting for it. Personal tools, one-time tools, and blah, blah, blah. There is a time and place where to do this. So you probably, because you said vibe coding sucks, the people who raise their hands, your experience might have been bad with it, and the reasons might be unlucky timing. You're overwhelmed by all the choices and all the buzzwords and all the things and blah, blah, blah. You might have cheapened out and tried like the smallest thing, right? You might be a beta dev. I'm going to explain that in a second. Give me a second. Your cousin who was into NFTs and drop shipping is now a vibe coder. So you're like, fuck Juan, I don't want to be like him. I'm better than him. I'm going to write my code organically, right? Or it might be a skill issue. This is not a meme. We're going to talk about all of this, except your cousin. I cannot help that. Juan is what it is, you know? Might have been an unlucky timing, meaning everyone is hyping vibe coding and then you finally drop the money and you decide to try it and you're disappointed and it sucks. And the timing might be unlucky because companies, after making a lot of money from a model, from CLI, whatever, they pull the rug and they dumb down their models because they cannot handle that many requests and they don't want to pay that much money, right? So you might have caught the period where Cloud Code, for example, was like, oops, we had a bug, and the bug was like intentionally dumbing it down in order to serve more customers. Second, there are tweets like this. Instead of paying $200 for Claude, I'm going to pay $3 to a Chinese company. I can tell this to my dog and he'll be like, no, that's a bad idea. You're not going to get equal results from the one thing that's $200 and the other thing that's like $3. Or people try in my workshop, I ask who is using any vibe coding tools or LLMs, and few people raised their hands and they said Copilot, which is like, if you use that, you're going to get the worst results, but you need to know about the entire universe of tools and agents and blah, blah, blah. You might be overwhelmed by choice, because the choice is kind of crazy. And this is just GPT things. And probably 3 new models dropped while I was giving this talk. And you're like, where do we even start? What do we even use? It's a little bit crazy. If you ask me what is the best model, my answer would be different now and at 3 p.m. There's like 2 different answers because it's like too much happening all the time. And not everything is based on benchmarks, but it's mostly vibes, man, you know. It's mostly how the Twitter community perceives which model is. And people follow hype, so if 5 people mention something, everyone turns towards that. And it's like comes and goes in waves. So my personal LLM coding history was actually I started copy-pasting from GPT when it came out. I haven't tried Copilot. And then I tried Copilot and I was like, why doesn't it write entire files? Like, why does it just autocomplete like one line? I was kind of disappointed. I was using WebStorm with a Super Maven plugin, which was kind of better, tab autocomplete, then Cursor with tab completion, then Cursor. I actually hated the switch from WebStorm to VS Code because it drives me crazy. Then in Cursor, you could just edit one file, and I started feeling the magic. I'm like, God damn, I can edit an entire file. That's nice, instead of copy-pasting. And then this agentic thing started like a year ago, and I just finally saw the light. I'm like, wait, this can go on for a while and do many things and also remove files from my computer and photos of my daughter and maybe destroy production databases? Fuck yeah, let's go. It felt exciting, right? So now, back then when I started this, I saw that my bill was going because, as I said, I don't touch the code no matter what. Oh, a background color change takes like $2? Fuck it, take them. So I started paying like $300, $400 per month and I'm like, it's bad? But I would pay way more for a human, so it's kind of not that bad. And what I like about these new tools that came out, like Cloud Code and stuff, you can go buy with their like $20 plan, but you will burn the tokens and then you're basically out of tokens for a while. Or you can just pay $200 per month, which is kind of insane for a subscription, but it's also the most underpaid senior engineer, so you know, $200 is not that much. And finally, I switched to this. I never thought that GPT would overcome Claude Code when it comes to smartness and stuff. It is the slowest model. It is the most pain in the ass model when it comes to waiting to do stuff. But when it does stuff, it's actually the most incredible thing out of everything I've tried here. With Cursor, I like Cursor. It has way more features than a CLI, obviously, but you have to constantly think and manage, do I want to burn the token or not? Do I want the model to be thinking or not? And that causes more fatigue than actually just doing the thing by yourself. And if you just pay the $200, you don't do these decisions anymore. You just vibe code and that's it. You might be overwhelmed by buzzwords, which are, for example, the following, MCP and I'm not sure. Have you heard about this? Anyone heard about MCP? MCP is very good, guys. Yeah, MCP, great, MCP. So many buzzwords. So MCP stands for Marketing Charge Protocol, a mythical compatibility promise, a manufactured complexity pipeline. It's a fancy word for API, and a way for certain people to sell courses and workshops. Sorry, not sorry, but it is the truth. Now for the awkward part. You might be a PITA dev, and PITA, if you don't know, stands for pain in the ass, and some of you are here, and I'm sorry if you find yourself. We're going to do a quick diagnosis check. We're going to invite Dr. KITZE on the stage for a PITA dev symptoms diagnosis. So you're a PITA dev if you leave nitpick comment on a 2-line PR. You spend more than 2 minutes on a PR review. You don't have the words, looks good to me, in your dictionary. That's not a thing. The thought of agreeing with a colleague causes you like chest pain and stomach pain. You're like, ew, it's my way, right? You say that you're not religious, but you're kind of religious about tabs and spaces, so you are. You use well actually in code comments, and you have a crab at Rust people. I'm sorry, but sometimes you're very annoying. They tell you to swap Lodash things for like a native implementation. They tell you to swap a map for like a for loop, and then eventually swap the for loop for some binary code just to make it a few milliseconds faster. So the sad news is like PITA devs were, are, and will be beta devs before, after, during vibe coding, until the creation, until the end of time. They will, like one day, I hope, we will merge with AGI and we'll have all this super intelligence just chilling in our matrix pods, just like absorbing all of this infinite knowledge. And out of those pods, a beta dev is going to rise and be like, actually, nah, AGI is wrong in this case. It's not performant enough. So the last reason why you might not like vibe or sus coding is the glorious animation that I use in Keynote, skill issue. And this is like not a meme, this is real, because this is a new skill and developers usually don't like learning new skills. And the new skills, it's not only writing English. If you just write plain English, you're going to be disappointed with the results, but you got to know the limits of the models, like the names and things and configurations for all models, capabilities of the agent, which context to pass, the context limits, how to write rules. Prompt engineering and being chronically online on Twitter, this one helps, and having a lot of technical knowledge. So the combination of all of this might make you a better vibe and sus coder, because it takes a real skill to know which code is good enough for the job. This was true pre-LLMs. There are people who could figure out like this is good enough and we can get by with this. We don't need a more advanced solution. So usually like what I do is like vibe code something, I look at the code briefly, I test the functionality briefly, and then the actual skill is like realizing that this is good enough for this particular feature and it's not going to unleash other effects on the rest of the code base and ruin something. That's an actual skill instead of completely optimizing every single block of code that goes into your app. That's a waste of time. And then you move on and then you repeat. Clean code is also a very broad definition, a very broad thing. Like what is even clean code? Like at this point, it's like it has to be good enough-ish for LLMs to work on it, and it's kind of okay and it's kind of fine. And it's always been that way. Because coding right now is some form of procrastination. You see all of these buzzwords and things and people talking on stage about blah, 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 the future of things. And because it's so overwhelming, you go back into a shell and you're like, I'm just going to optimize my for loop. It's like a form of procrastination. So naturally, after giving this talk or after talking about AI on stage, there are students who come up and be like, hey, is it even worth it to study computer science? And I think it's actually the best time to study computer science, because when I studied computer science, I had an LLM, but it was the slowest one ever. It was a friend of a friend of a friend, which is like the worst kind of friend. They don't give a shit about you, but they kind of have to tolerate you on MSN Messenger. So I would do something in .NET, C#, whatever I was doing. I would ask this random guy, and he would play Counter-Strike, and maybe 30 minutes, he would give me a solution which is wrong. And then I'll paste it into the thing, I'll run it, it doesn't work, and it took 30 minutes every time for me to learn basics about programming and shit. And now if you're a student, you can just instantly get answers about everything. People ask, but what about the jobs? There's all of these annoying people who are saying, but AI will take our jobs. There's this guy, like constantly yapping about how AI will actually take our jobs, also this guy. And I think, personally, me on stage, not this guy, our jobs will be fine, because if you ask it, how many strawberries are there in the word R? It says the letter R has 3 strawberries. And the laughing here is like kind of cope, like AI bad, they reached GPT-5, but it's still bad. But there are companies like Shopify has a vibe coding leaderboard, and this is a real thing because the CEO figured out that we have to give superpowers to every developer, and they put like a public leaderboard in the Shopify offices where the more vibe code you use, the more tokens you burn, the more higher you are on the list. Of course, some employees don't like it, but it doesn't matter. And eventually you realize that being on top, like it's in your favor. If you learn this new thing that the CEO is requiring from you, you basically like kind of multiply yourself, you're way more productive, and it's kind of in your favor to get in with the times. There's this like funny tweet from Prime, like we're 13 months into 6 months away from AI stealing your programming jobs. And it's funny, and it's true until it's not funny and it's not true, because I think it's going to get everyone caught like, oh fuck, we didn't, it was funny for a while, right? So let's see, will it happen anyway? So there's my prognosis. What we solved during the last 2 years was like infrastructure, integrations, and a bunch of other things. Let's just take the intelligence of the model aside. Let's just see how we integrated all of this into all of our tools. So now we have some standards like AI SDK. We have some standards when it comes to implementing agents, calling tools, blah, blah, blah. We have integrations into GitHub, Linear, Slack, and a bunch of other things where you can tag these things. They can do pull request reviews and blah, blah, blah. So now it's just a matter of time of the model actually getting better, cheaper, and the context getting bigger. But we're setting up all the railway. We're just waiting for the right train to come on the actual railway. So the infra is already there, and if you're in a company and you're an @, and what I mean by this is your job is mostly someone @ing you on something, like mentioning, hey Juan, can you fix this? Hey Juan, can you, I don't know why I picked Juan, can you like do this pull request, and can you do this and that? If you're just a tag and you're like, I don't care about all the company things, let me do my tasks. When they tag you, it's going to take you 30 minutes because you're doing lunch and you're doing ping pong and you're doing the thing and you're sick at home and blah, blah, blah. And even if you take the task, it would take you a long time and you're occupied with one task. But if we replace you here with the LLM, it might not be as good as you because your coding is perfect, right? But it would do 80% of the job and it would be instant and do things in parallel. It can do as many things as it wants, not just one thing, like you or Juan. So eventually, if you unleash this effect, if you zoom out in the entire company, like the more you do this on more layers, there's definitely going to be crucial people who stay at crucial places. But if you're just an person, instead of @Juan, it's going to be @Claude Code, do the thing. So now let's talk about model intelligence. Like, will they get better? If you follow the logic of this tweet, my 3-month-old son is now twice as big as he was born. He's going to be 7.5 trillion pounds by the age 10. So if we follow this logic, models are going to get insanely smarter all the time. And then you have the other side of people who are like, they cope with this. They're like, they reached a plateau, right? And I had this next slide before my last conference, and as soon as I was about to close my laptop to be done with the slides, I opened Twitter, and Sam is like, hey, we have a newer model, and it's better at benchmarks, and it's better at, like all the benchmarks are better, and blah, blah, blah. And he was actually right. This time he wasn't hyping it up. And the other day I was about to be done with the update of this talk, and I'm like, I'm finally done, let me close the laptop. And Claude is like, introducing the new thing. It's even smarter and better at UI, and this does all the things, and it's faster, and blah, blah. So I don't think we reached any plateau, and even if we did, the amount of infra stuff that we're doing to cobble all the models and agents and things together, it's gonna get us there without even the models getting smarter, but they will. But there's hope. We're going to wrap up with some hope because I don't want to be the doomer guy who one day you're going to be like, it's that motherfucker's fault, right? So there's a new job position which we'll have for a while. And you're like, ha, 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 funny, right? This is real because you'll see people on Reddit who are vibe coding and they're like, I gave up and the last 20% I just hired a real person. Or you have someone saying, what's the point of vibe coding if I have to pay a developer to fix it? So some smart people have figured out a way to monetize on this. And this is real. This is not, you know, a fake screenshot. There's like vibe code fixers. And you're like, oh my God, what a unique business. If you go to Google and type vibe code fixing, you get 15 results of companies who are just their job is like to be vibe code fixers. So you'll have a job. Because the highest paid developers are not vibe coders working on a next shiny AI startup. The highest paid developers, always have been, even right now, are seniors who are maintaining legacy systems. So this is a job position that will exist forever and will be fine. In my 2017 talk, I found this perfect example of this perfect company called COBOL Cowboys. And the tagline was, not our first rodeo. Do you know why? Because they've been in business for 250 years, right? So I was curious to click on Meet the Company because I knew what I'm going to see. I'm like, these are going to be the most senior. These are actual seniors, not you, okay? And I have some sad news. When I wanted to update the screenshot, and this is maybe dark humor, I don't know. I just wanted a new screenshot from COBOL Cowboys, and when I went to meet the team, I saw this. I'm not memeing, this is what it is. And maybe if I do a talk in Alicante 2014, this will be their team. I'm sorry, if you ban me from the conference, I'm fine, it's fine. This is their junior developer joining this week. Their sprints are not called sprints, they're actually called walks, so they don't hurt their hips and stuff. I can go on with these jokes, but I don't want to be insensitive, okay? So, I am trademarking the name React Cowboys. When I retire, I'm going to be maintaining legacy, Hooks code, or whatever you guys write. You can take the other ones like Angular, Vue, or whatever Cowboys, and we'll all be fine. The final tip until next year, hopefully, Victoria, am I still on? Yeah? Yeah? Kinda? She was not really sure, but she's like, you know, we'll see. If you don't want AI to take your job, you can just add this to your LinkedIn bio and you'll be fine, right? So I'm going to awkwardly sip my water for 30 seconds until you type in either my Twitter or my website so we can connect somewhere. And I want to thank you for listening to my rant, and I'll see you maybe next year. Thank you.